It was supposed to be a perfect evening, Princess Anne's 75th birthday, a celebration of legacy, resilience, and quiet strength. Everything about the event reflected Anne herself. Elegant, understated, deeply rooted in purpose. The Buckingham Palace Hall was transformed into a sanctuary of service. White silk drapes hung from the ceiling like whispers of grace, and golden roses, Anne's favorite, lined the room. But beneath all the glamour, something far colder was already moving behind the scenes. This wasn't just any birthday. It had become an international summit, pulling in leaders and activists from nearly 60 countries. From UN officials to grassroots organizers from rural Africa, everyone came to honor Anne not for her crown, but for her work. She had outlived the frills of royalty and become something else entirely, a global icon of service. And yet, not everyone was ready to let her shine. Camilla watched the event unfold from a private room within the palace, her expression unreadable, but her hands gripping a wine glass so tightly the crystal threatened to crack. On the monitor, Anne walked into the hall and the room erupted in applause. People stood, they clapped like they were greeting a hero, not just a royal. For Camilla, it was unbearable. Anne had become the face of the monarchy in ways Camilla never could. She was the one sent to speak at UN forums, lead wildlife conservation efforts, show up to orphanages unannounced, and stay for hours. She didn't need photographers or flashy titles. She had presence, the kind that couldn't be staged. And now, Camila found herself on the outside, watching Anne become what she had always wanted to be. The soul of the crown, not just accepted by the public, but loved, admired, seen, and worse. Headlines had already begun dubbing Anne the spiritual heir to Queen Elizabeth. That title alone stung deeper than anything else, so Camilla made a decision, one that would shift the entire night and maybe history itself. The hall buzzed as Anne prepared to give her opening speech. Her gown, a deep sapphire, shimmered under the lights like calm ocean water. She stepped up to the microphone with the calm presence of someone who didn't need the spotlight to command attention. Her words weren't grand or theatrical. She simply told stories about girls she met in refugee camps, about small victories that had changed lives. The room was wrapped. But then, bang! The grand doors burst open, the kind of dramatic entrance meant for films, not birthday events. Gasps filled the air as everyone turned. Camilla walked in like royalty from another era, regal, poised, and draped in a purple velvet gown. But this wasn't just any dress. It was that dress, the one Anne had worn during a historic event with Princess Diana in 1985, a dress long thought lost. Camilla, wearing it now, wasn't just a fashion choice, it was a statement. The room froze. Even Anne, mid-speech, paused. She looked at Camilla without blinking. The smile didn't falter, but her silence spoke louder than anything. Cameras shifted, flashes started. Social media exploded in real time. Camilla in the iconic gown. Camilla stealing the stage. Camilla turning Anne's tribute into her own coronation, but no one could quite understand what was happening. Was this planned? Was this her event now? Camilla made her way to the stage, smile plastered on like a mask. She took the microphone without invitation. The air turned cold. Anne, dignified as ever, simply stepped back. She didn't fight it, she didn't react, she just watched. Still. But her silence, it wasn't surrender, it was the calm before a storm. Camilla stood at the center of the stage, basking in the camera flashes like they were sunlight she had been starved of. Her smile was polished, but too perfect, like something carved into porcelain. She adjusted the microphone with one gloved hand and began to speak. Her voice dipped in sweetness but flat underneath. As your queen, she began, it fills me with pride to witness such unity, such hope, but the room didn't echo with warmth. It cooled. Some clapped out of habit, others stared confused. Guests flipped through their programs, quietly murmuring to each other. One delegate from Peru whispered to the woman beside her, "Was this her event?" At the front, a young sponsor from an American tech firm checked his phone. Twitter, Uri on fire. Photos of Camilla in Anne's iconic dress flooded the timeline. Headlines screamed things like "Camilla commands," "Queen's surprise appearance shocks guests," and even worse, "Anne overshadowed." But backstage, something else was brewing. Emily, Anne's longtime aide, paced behind the curtain. Her phone buzzed. A new email. The subject line read, "The Truth." It was unsigned, just the initials PL. Attached was a grainy phone video. The screen was shaky, but the audio? Sharp as a knife. Emily pressed play and nearly dropped the phone. There was Camilla, days before the event, sitting in a private room at Clarence's house. Two advisors flanked her, Margaret Hale always lurking with that tight-lipped smirk, and a man known only as Mr. Gray. The conversation was low, but unmistakable. Camilla's voice, "She's lived off her reputation long enough. That dress is a dagger. I'll strike softly, erase her quietly." "No one will even remember she spoke," Margaret replied. "The lights, the press, the dress, you'll be the queen they celebrate." Mr. Gray added, "The headlines are prepared, we'll control the narrative. Anne will fade." Emily stared at the screen, frozen. This wasn't just arrogance, it was sabotage. A premeditated attempt to hijack the moment, to bury Anne's legacy beneath velvet and vanity. She rushed to Anne, who was standing just out of sight, her eyes locked on Camilla's performance. Anne's face held no anger, no visible tension, but her silence pulsed with intensity. Emily handed her the phone without a word. Anne watched. Her grip tightened, but her face stayed unreadable. Only her eyes shifted, sharp, calculating, cold. She didn't speak for a while. Then finally, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "She came to replace, not celebrate." Emily nodded, her throat dry. "What do you want to do?" Anne's reply came slow but steady. "We won't argue. We'll reflect the truth. Prepare the screen." Within minutes, the tech team moved in. The large digital screen behind the stage flickered to life. Camilla was mid-sentence, trying to force enthusiasm into a crowd that had already lost interest. Her words began to falter as movement backstage drew attention. A low murmur grew into a buzz. The lights dimmed, the microphone cut. Camilla turned, confused. The screen lit up. There she was. Camilla, in her own words, plotting the spectacle. The dress, the timing, the erasure. Gasps ripped through the audience. One delegate clutched her chest. Another stood up, mouth open. Phones came out instantly. Live streams launched. The hall erupted, not in applause, but shock. Camilla's eyes widened, her lips parted, but no words came. That perfect mask cracked, revealing the raw disbelief underneath. Her breath caught. Then silence. Dead silence. Anne stepped forward from the shadows. No fanfare, no music, just presence. The spotlight returned to her not because the room was dead still as Anne took the stage. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her presence alone shifted the air like the weight of history had walked into the room. Camilla stood frozen at the edge of the platform, the once iconic purple gown now feeling like a burden stitched with shame. The screen behind them lingered on her face, caught mid-scheme, exposed. Anne turned toward the crowd, her gaze calm, her voice steady. "I've never needed to be first to speak," she said, her tone laced with quiet defiance. "But when truth is dressed as performance, the last word becomes a duty." The applause that followed wasn't polite. It was thunderous. It came not from obligation, but from release. From anger, from relief. Delegates stood, some clapping, others nodding with solemn admiration. Cameras panned wildly, journalists whispered frantically into microphones. The video was already viral. Headlines were writing themselves, security moved subtly, guiding Camilla off stage. She didn't protest. She didn't speak. Her eyes were glassy, her steps slow. The gown trailed behind her like a shadow trying to disappear. Anne didn't mention her again. She resumed her speech as if nothing had happened. But now every word rang louder. She spoke about dignity, not as a posture, but as a lifestyle. About service, not as a public performance, but a private promise. She told stories of single mothers building schools in Kenya, of girls escaping child marriage in Afghanistan, of grandmothers who led peace talks in Colombia. Real women, real battles. And every story she told felt like a torch held high in a dark. Near the end of her speech, a girl in the front row stood. No one prompted her. She was 10, maybe 11, wearing a bright pink traditional Kenyan dress. Her eyes sparkled as she walked up the steps, holding a small bouquet of golden roses. The hall hushed. Even the camera crew stopped. Anne knelt down, smiling gently. "Are you the queen?" the girl asked, her voice soft but certain. Anne's eyes welled slightly, but she didn't flinch. She placed a hand on the girl's shoulder and said, "You're the reason queens exist." The applause that followed was raw and emotional, not just respect, but something deeper, reverence, a kind of collective acknowledgement that they'd witnessed not just a moment, but a turning point. By the end of the night, the event was renamed the Anne Summit. No palace decree, no royal memo, just a unanimous decision by the international organizations present, a symbol of endurance, of moral strength, of what it means to lead without asking for a crown. The backlash against Camilla was immediate and brutal. UNICEF pulled out of partnerships. The Global Fund issued a sharp statement saying, "We stand with truth." UN Women released a single line that echoed around the world: "Compassion needs no costume." Camilla vanished from the public eye. No appearances, no interviews, just silence. Rumors said she fled to a countryside estate in Scotland. Others whispered she refused even to speak to King Charles. But the truth was simpler. She lost the one thing she couldn't reclaim: public trust. Anne, on the other hand, didn't gloat. She returned to work the next morning, visited a children's hospital, sent handwritten thank you notes to every delegate, and when asked about the incident, she simply replied, "The work matters more than the noise." The girl in pink, the one who asked the question, was later invited to spend a week with Anne's charity. A photo of them planting a tree together went viral. The caption read, "Royalty isn't about blood, it's about roots." And just like that, the real queen was never the one who walked in wearing the dress. It was the one who never needed it.